Are we ready to get started? Okay. First, I want to make sure that if I can check with the clerk that we have a digital or tape recorder in good working order, ready to start at the beginning of the hearing. Thumbs up from the back.
Yes, we do.
All right. So the board is now in session. I'm going to first start by just introducing the Board of Review members. To my left, Marianne Zashutek, Justin Reichert. To my left, Adam Williket, City Attorney Ian Proust, and Assistant Deputy Lisa Passig. Down below, we have the Assistant Assessor Bill Meyer and the City Assessor Jeff Yoder. The board is now in session. We'll call our first appointment. This first hearing involves the appeal of Joseph Geraci. Sorry, my apologies. The procedure will follow in this hearing and will substantially occur as follows. First, we will read the pertinent portions of your objection form, and then you and a representative from the assessor's office will be sworn by the board clerk. You and the representative from the assessor's office will be asked to stipulate that the oaths and evidence in this case will serve as the oaths and evidence in each subsequent case. You will testify or make a statement as to the reasons for your objection and provide any evidence to support your objection. The members of the Citizens Board of Review and the assessor may then ask you questions. The assessor will then testify as to the basis for his assessment. Pardon me. The Citizens Board of Review members may also ask the assessor questions, and you may then ask the assessor any questions you wish. The hearing will then be closed, and the Citizens Board of Review will deliberate in open session. You will receive a written notice via certified mail from the city as to the decision made by the Citizens Board of Review. You are reminded the assessment can be changed by the Citizen Board of Review only on the basis of sworn oral testimony presented at this meeting, and only in increments of $100 for real estate property. The value for this property is placed on the assessment roll by the city assessor is presumed correct unless rebutted by sufficient evidence provided by the property owner showing that value to be incorrect. Do you have any questions? Will the clerk please provide the board with the pertinent information from the objection form and then swear in and ask the stipulation of the objector and representative from the assessor's office?
If Jeff and Bill could please stand. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Jeff Yoder, City Assessor, West Bend, 1115 South Main Street.
Bill Meyer, Assistant Assessor, address 1115 South Main Street, West Bend.
Thank you. All right, the first case is for Joseph Geraci, parcel number 291-1120-303-0126. If you could please come to the podium.
Good morning.
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 If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Joseph Geraci, 1827 Cloverview Street.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to get a couple of details. Are you the sole owner of the property?
My wife, Samantha, is also here.
Okay, and so she's also on the property?
Yes.
Deed, okay. And it's Samantha? Okay, all right. I'm just making notes on the assessment, like the determination as we go here. So, so the current assessment that you got notice of was $443,500. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and do you have, well, do you have your, was there anything on the script to lead into that or? No, okay, just making sure. So we will open it up for you to provide testimony as to the basis for your objection. And then do you have any documents?
Yeah, we bring our
Okay.
packets. Would you like me to give you one?
Yes, if you have any documents, please provide them to the board. you.
Thank you.
Did you need time to review, or did you want me to start off?
Yep, you can start off
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
So, just after our review of the recent assessment, we feel our property was not assessed at the same rate as some of the other ones. And two examples I had, starting out was 632 Creekwood Drive. It's built in the same year as our house. The living square footage was at 2519. The house has 4 bedrooms versus 3 bedrooms in ours. It has same amount of baths, has 1 additional room, has a little smaller deck, but relatively same size. Again, a little larger porch, almost double the masonry, and has a nearly double the size garage at 800 square feet. Its assessment for improvement value came in at $350,200, which is approximately $139 a square foot. Again, when you look at my property, coming in at 2,196 square feet, does have a rec room on it, but it's coming in at $170 a square foot, looking at the 373,300 improvement value. And in comparison, if you took my property at the 2,196 square foot size by the $139 a square foot that they were assessed at, my property would come in at $305,244. Talking with Bill a bit yesterday, we determined the rec room is approximately $14,000, so you have to add that on at $319. Again, Creekwood does have a 804 square foot garage, where ours is 448, making the garage 320 square foot difference. Again, talking with Bill a bit yesterday, we came up with about $33 a square foot is what the cost of that is. So that's a difference of $10,500, which would have to come off the 319, making my property 308.64. Again, I wasn't contesting the land value, 70,200, so 378.84 is what I come up with when you're comparing apples to apples, those two properties. My other comp was on Tumbleweed Circle, right in our property, or right in our neighborhood. This other one was just a mile away. On Tumbleweed, the house, again, built in 2003, first ours was 2005. It does have 2,600 square feet and 500 square feet of rec room. So again, a similar sized rec room. It has 3 bedrooms, as does ours. It does have 1 additional half bath on that property. Same amount of other rooms, similar sized deck, just a hair smaller at 244 versus our 444 square feet. And then again, their garage is 682 versus our 484. They were assessed at 369, and it works out again to be $139 a square foot. Again, using that same math as I did before, coming out to the 319 on my property. Their garage, again, being 682, 198 square feet different at $33 a square foot is $6,534, making my property, using the same calculations, $312,710. Again, land value not contested at $70,200, which make my value of $382,910 for those, comparing those two apples to apples as best as I can. If you look at the comparison sheet that I provided, which shows those two properties averaged out at 380, 897. Additionally, I wanted to mention the property right next door to mine, 1820 Prairie Drive, in similar size and condition, sold on March 8th of this year. 2,072 square feet, sold for $340,000. It's $164 a square foot. If you took my square footage, 2196, you took it times $164 a square foot, that's $360,144. You added in the additional rec room, that property doesn't have a rec room, mine does. You add in the rec room of 14,000. Again, that we kind of came to a conclusion on yesterday. It would make my property 374,144. Again, if you averaged all three of these properties, now you'd come to 378,64 between all three of those properties, apples to apples. In conclusion, just to kind of go over the details and important stuff again, the property on 632 Creek Drive is 323 more square feet. It's one more bedroom. It's got one more other room. It's got a 4-car, 320 square foot larger garage. As well as, if you look at the pictures I provided, it has hardwood flooring throughout, which if you take an average of $18 a square foot, that's probably around $30,000 in hardwood flooring that's in that property, which I do not have. I got laminate and carpet. Additionally, its improvement value was $23,100 less than improvement value on my home. If you look again at the property at 1621 Tumbleweed Circle, it has 460 more square feet. It's got a half bath mower in the basement. It's got a 3-car garage, 198 square feet larger garage again, and its improvement value was $3,500 less than my improvement value. And then, as I mentioned, the adjacent property on 1320 Prairie, similar size, similar condition, sold this year on March 8th for $340. Again, dividing that square footage is $164 a square foot. Again, I did provide pictures of those properties as well as mine, all the assessment documentation, the sale of the property on 1820 Cloverview, or on 1820 Prairie Drive, and the packet that you have. That's all I've got. I appreciate your time and consideration. Did you have any questions for me?
Are there any questions for the property owner? Nope, okay. Jeff, Bill, who's presenting on this one?
More or less comparing assessments to assessments, or?
Yeah, square footage. I guess I kind of went right through it.
Okay.
You and I were talking yesterday on the two things I mentioned, what the value of the rec room was, which we talked about 14,000. I know
Correct.
Jeff said 16,000. We talked about the garage, $33 a square foot. So that's where I went off of to make apples to apples on all the stuff I just mentioned.
Okay.
I guess it was pretty clear. I don't know if I understood your question completely, but.
Did you have any sales to?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the property next door to mine sold March this year for $340.
Okay.
In the same condition, relatively same size, and I haven't really improved my property anything. I haven't put no hardwood floors in it. I haven't painted the walls. It looks the same as if the day that it was sold to me. The only thing, as I mentioned, I did have the water damage. We removed the carpeting in the basement. We had to remove the wood because the wood was all damaged from the water in the basement. But I'm not contesting it. We're planning on restoring the rec room back to the way it was. But it's been like that since 2018 when it was taken out. So, but I think I did the best comparison I can, apples to apples, especially on the important things. And that's why I can't make heads or tails of why it's so much different from these properties than mine.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, do you want to present for the assessor? Or who's presenting for the assessor, I guess I should ask?
I will be.
Okay.
Jeff.
Do you want me to sit down?
You can sit down for now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
The parcel number 1120-303-0126, address of 1827 Clover View Street. It's a 2005 colonial, has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a living area of 2,196 square feet. Here's some other features listed there, including the attached garage, with the current assessed value at $443,500. That is at $202 per square foot. Comparable number 1, parcel number 1120-303-0236, 1722 Tumbleweed Circle. It's a 2003 colonial, 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and 2 half baths. Has 2,129 square feet. There's some other features listed. That's sold June of 2022 for $422,000. Time adjusted up to January 1st would be $438,400 or $206 per square foot. Comparable number 2, tax key number 1120-303-0158, address of 1940 Tumbleweed Circle. That is a 2005 colonial. It's 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, living area of 2,334 square feet. Other characteristics listed there. That's sold June of last year for $442,000. Time adjusted sale price equates to $460,200 or $197 per square foot. Comparable number 3, tax key number 1120-303-0237, address 1726 Tumbleweed Circle. That is a 2003 colonial, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, has living area of 2,226 square feet. Other features listed, that's sold in May of last year for $485,000. Time adjusted sale brings it up to $510,300 or $229 per square foot. Comparable number 4, tax key number 1120-303-0178, address of 2617 Tumbleweed Circle. That's a colonial built in 2008. Has 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath, living area of 2,326 square feet. Other features listed. That's sold in July of 2022 for $460,000. Time adjusted up to January 1st would be $475,400 or $204 per square foot. A range of market value of $197 to $229 per square foot is indicated by the market sales analyzed. Within this range, the subject market value of $202 per square foot is considered reasonable. Therefore, we recommend no change in the current assessed value. However, at this point in time, I'd like to, it was brought to our attention about the water damage, and if the owner would want us to come out and take a look at that, we could potentially make a partial adjustment based upon what we feel would be to cure that. He has no estimates, but we could make an appointment and come at a later date when the next board meets. But I recommend that we currently sustain the value at this point.
Are there any questions from the board? Do you know, is there, well, and I guess as a general question for all the objections, are the estimated level of assessment all 100% at this stage because of the reval?
Yes, all the assessments are at 100%.
Okay, all right. All right. Are there any questions from anybody? Okay. So. So I'm going to put the determination form up so it can be reviewed. Okay, so I have the general facts here. We'll put in the specific, I'll plug in the specific land and improvement values for the initial findings. The date and that there was written confirmation that the notice was received. The notice was, or the objection was timely. We have the Jonathan Corbett, Justin Reichert, Adam Williket, and Marion Ratushik as the board members present. There's nobody removed. I'm representing the board. There's no representative of the owner. So this was John and Adam are the two with training, correct? Does anybody else have the board of review training specifically? No, okay. Testimony, or the people sworn were Jeff Yoder and Bill Meyer for the assessor's office, and then I will plug in Mr. Geraci for, Sorry. Okay. For testimony there. Mr. Geraci testified under oath. There was no recent sale of the property. There was a comparable property he cited of 1820 Prairie Drive. He also presented the factors, comparison of assessments for 1621 Tumbleweed Circle and 632 Creekwood. There were no other witnesses. Sworn testimony by the assessor's office was by Bill Meyer, and that included the 100% valuation. There was no recent sale. There were four comparable properties with recent sales. I listed those off. There were no other factors presented at this time, although it would just be adjusted by stipulation potentially based on the water damage at a later date. So we would adjust that at the later date or amend our findings if there's a change to that. And there's no other sworn testimony. So now, again, the board now has to make the determination. And the one thing to keep in mind, and just, I don't know if the property owners know this, but there is a presumption of validity of the assessor's office that is in place, so that you would have to overcome that presumption. So the board now has to make the findings, so we can go through those quickly. So there was no recent sale, correct? So we skipped the rest of those. Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong line. It's hard to move when you're viewing a screen 20 feet away from you. Okay. What am I doing? Sorry. Okay. There is no recent sale. So there are sales of comparable properties. So I guess now the board needs to deliberate about the comparable properties presented by the assessor's office, but then also make a finding regarding the property presented by the property owner.
I guess, pardon me, just one question I have before we do that. Do we need to give Mr. Geraci an opportunity to question anything that
Oh,
the
yeah,
assessor-
you're right. Do you have any questions for the assessor's office, I guess? I apologize, I skipped over that portion.
I guess I'm not familiar with the process, but you asked me if I compared assessment to assessment. Was I supposed to compare recent sales? You wanted recent sales?
Yeah, typically recent sales is what is used for assessment appraisal type purposes, correct?
Okay.
So-
I guess I didn't realize that, but I just had the one to present to you today.
So, all right, so I'll kick it over to you to
That's okay.
run
Yep.
through deliberations then.
So at this point, to clarify, when you guys are deliberating, we can't interject either party. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, we filled in the basic information, but now we're gonna go to deliberation. I'm actually gonna change the way I do this because it's hard to, hard to do it the other way here, so, sorry. Excuse me while I get the proper form up here. Okay. This will make my life a lot easier to go through this. Oh, sorry, reverted. Okay, you guys can start deliberating. I'll get this going if you would like. And I will take notes as you go, and then we can review the form.
So just from a procedural standpoint, are we to discuss openly what our opinions are, or do we just,
Yep.
does someone make a motion, or? how-
So, well, you can do either or. I mean, there should be some discussion about the comparable sales. And so one of the findings is that there are not comparable sales of the property. So you need to make a finding as to whether there were comparable sales, and they both presented evidence of those. So you'll need to make the evidence of there, and then we just need to note the properties and the values that you considered in making the assessment, and then the decision is either going to be that you are making the determination that the assessor's valuation is correct and that there's sufficient evidence presented by the assessor for the basis of their determination, or that there's sufficient evidence from the property owner to warrant overriding the assessor's valuation, and then what that new valuation would be if you're overriding that.
I guess I could kick it off. I guess given the assessor's comparables that they used to come up with the assessment, it doesn't seem unreasonable, but as he mentioned, maybe the rec room. I know he wanted to come back at a later date after they potentially tour the property. Would that be basis to table this until the next board review? or-
I would, I mean, there was a mention of it, but no evidence, so I would make a determination today, and then it can be amended. I assume it would be amended by stipulation with the assessor's office, in which case there's just gonna be straightforward action to adopt that stipulation at a later date.
At that point, okay.
Yes. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think in looking at the comparable sales, you know, and even especially the time-adjusted sale price, when you start factoring that into the equation, you know, it appears that currently the assessment is reasonable. You know, again, I agree with Adam that the basement portion of it, but that if that's something that can be dealt with at a later date, then, you know, we let the assessor's office handle that. But what's in front of us today, I think, based upon what I'm seeing the evidence provided, I would think that the assessor's assessment is reasonable.
are there any other factors anybody considers as of today, other than the comparables?
I just have a question, and I want to make sure I understand all the information. There were a lot of numbers here, and
Yep.
so I just want to make sure. But the properties presented by the owners were were not sales; they were assessed values as of this year. Is that
Correct.
correct?
There was one sale that was 1820 Prairie.
Prairie, yeah.
Yes, was a recent sale. The other two were comparisons to assessments.
Okay. And so on the sale on March 23, if that were time evaluated with the factor, so it looks like that wouldn't be close to either the, I was just curious about, I don't have my calculator out here, but that would just be a little increase to that, like 1.04 perhaps?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say because that's 23. That's 2023, so that's just, what, 5-6 months ago?
Right,
Versus
right.
these, the ones that the assessor provided were mostly summer of 22. So then you have almost an entire year's
Oh,
worth
okay,
of-
right,
So I
okay.
don't know that the percentage would be that.
I see what you're saying.
It's close.
Okay, I understand that.
So is there a motion one way or the other? And then a second, and I'll note those, and then, again, there's standard findings that are in there, that the valuation is correct, that it's,
Yep.
the evidence conforms to the statutory requirements. Assessor presented evidence of proper classification of the subject using the assessment methods. Proper use values were, well, some of these aren't really valid because obviously it's not agricultural land. I'll delete the ones that are not. Yes.
Should I go ahead and make a motion based on those
Yep.
factors? Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that the board, or exercising its judgment and discretion pursuant to Wisconsin statute 70.47 sub 9 sub A, that we affirm the assessment, again, based on the fact that the assessor's valuation is correct, that the assessor presented evidence of the fair market value of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements in which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual, that the assessor presented evidence of the proper classification of the subject property using assessment methods which conform.
Well, I have the ones, I marked the ones that were relevant.
Oh, you did already.
Sorry.
I apologize.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't see when I got my readers on.
Nope, it's all good.
All right.
They're not as big as they maybe could be.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I move that we sustain the valuation set forth by the assessor.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, and then,
Do we take a roll then?
yes,
So-
roll call vote.
We just go down the line.
Yep. Jonathan Corbett,
Aye.
Justin Reichert,
Aye.
Adam Williket,
Aye.
Marion Ratushik.
Aye.
Okay. I will finalize this then. So the findings have been adopted. We will print and sign everything and then get a copy out to you. And then the assessor's office will touch base about the review of the water damage and stuff.
Okay.
So, okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just wait a sec, I gotta resave this because it's, nope, I gotta turn it. There we go, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I mean, those are there for notes if you wanna take them, but I'm doing it as we go. But, just a couple of minutes, so, sorry. So the next one is,
Are we ready to move to the next one then?
yep, you can move to the next one.
The next one on the agenda is, pardon me, for Ryan Kirkpatrick, address 250 West Rusco Drive, tax parcel number 291-1119-253-0048. Is that Mr. Kirkpatrick? So I'll just go through the procedures again real quick, just so that everyone's on the same page. First, we'll read the pertinent portions of your objection form, and then you and a representative from the assessor's office will be sworn in by the board clerk. You and the representative from the assessor's office will be asked to stipulate that the oaths and evidence in this case will serve as the oaths and evidence in each subsequent case. You'll testify or make a statement as to the reasons for your objection and provide any evidence to support your objection. The members of the Citizens Board of Review and the assessor may then ask you questions. The assessor will then testify as to the basis for his assessment. The Citizens Board of Review members may also ask the assessor questions. You may then ask the assessor any questions you wish. The hearing will then be closed and the Citizens Board of Review will deliberate in open session. You'll receive a written notice via certified mail from the city as to the decision made by the Citizens Board of Review. You are reminded the assessment can be changed by the Citizens Board of Review only on the basis of sworn oral testimony presented at this meeting and only in increments of $100 for real estate property. The value for this property is placed on the assessment roll by the city assessor is presumed correct unless rebutted by sufficient evidence provided by the property owner showing that value to be incorrect. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
All right. I don't know that we have to give the oath to the assessors again, but we do to the property owner, I
Correct. The
believe.
assessors remain sworn in.
Okay.
If you could raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Ryan Kirkpatrick, 250 West Rusco Drive.
Thank you.
One question before you start, are you the sole owner of the property, or is there somebody else?
Sorry.
I'm with my wife is a co-owner, I guess.
Okay, what is her name?
Caitlin Kirkpatrick,
Katelyn,
two N's.
2 N's. Okay. All right. Okay, so the procedurally, do you have any materials to present?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can pass out copies of those, and then we'll start going through everything. Thank you.
Okay, so the first two pages are, this was included with my objection. It was my written statement, and the page here is a couple modifications, largely the same, but a couple modifications. So if you could please reference the one I handed out as the new document, I would appreciate that. I'd just like to thank the board for the time today and thank the assessors for the time the past few weeks discussing with me. Unfortunately, I reached out to them towards the end of the open book period, so we just kind of ran out of time, but I'm confident that we would have gotten to a proper settlement had we had appropriate time to get there. So just walking through the document here, first two pages, written statement. The next couple pages is a comparison of properties in the area based on the assessment value. And then the next 6 pages would be a piece of the appraisal that we had completed on our property. And then the last page is my objection that was submitted. So I'd like to start off by just saying that we are objecting to our property value as it is not in line with comparable properties in the area. Our house was newly constructed in 2022, construction completed in November. And during construction, we faced a lot of price increases that were abnormal to, houses that would have been constructed in previous years, maybe pre-COVID, say for a safe example. So it's hard to find comparable sales in the area, especially given our property has 8 acres of land, so it's kind of unique in that way. When discussing with the appraiser that appraised our property prior to construction, it happened in January of 2022. And they were hired by our bank, and they had even mentioned that it was hard to find comparable properties in the area, just based on what we were building and the scope of our property. So I put together a list of comparable properties on page 3 with similar characteristics to our house. And just looking at the improvement assessments, the average of those properties was 30% lower than the assessment that we were given. And the assessment listed here for our house improvements is $558,500. This was a partial adjustment by the appraisers after initial discussions that we did not have a deck during our construction. On the next page, these would be properties with, I call them greater characteristics in our house. They had approximately 22% more square feet finished than our house does, and yet our assessment was still 27% above the average of those. On page 4, this is houses with significantly greater characteristics, identified as greater than 3,500 square feet, had approximately 46% more square feet than our house, yet our assessment was still 15% above the average of those. The one highlighted on page 4, 1715 Sagewood Circle. The improvement assessments comes out to $509,900. Property details 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, approximately 4,844 square feet. And I feel that this assessment really details that our property is an outlier in comparison to all these. This property was constructed in 2005, and so that puts it at 18 years old as of 2023. So not a terribly old house, but comparing that to our new property kind of puts it out of puts it as an outlier. Apologize for bouncing back and forth, but back to page 3, I had highlighted a property 440 Reeds Drive. This property has an assessed value of $417,900. This was probably the closest comparable that I could find. This property was constructed in January of 2022. Features 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2,735 square feet of living space. And it very closely mirrors our property because the appraisal we had was done at that same time of year, approximately. And our property characteristics match up closely. Just to kind of walk through our property characteristics, we have approximately 2,685 square feet finished, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and additional factors that were not truly represented in our property is that we had a gravel driveway as of January 1st, 2023. It was unpaved, paved in 2023, but as of January 1st, it was unpaved. We do not have access to city sewer and water. We have a well and septic system, which was factored into our construction cost. And we don't have sidewalks down Rusco Drive in front of our property, no curb and gutter, and no fire hydrant nearby. I think the closest one is about a third of a mile away. And so that's kind of my argument for comparing to comparables in the area from an assessment standpoint. It's kind of hard to find sales of new houses in the area. The closest was 440 Reeds Drive, and I appreciate you taking that into consideration. The second approach would be a cost approach, looking at what it took us to build our house. So our construction contract was for $540,000. We paid approximately $22,800 in overages due to price increases and several modifications that we had to make. Some of those modifications would include relocating the house due to an environmental protection line that went through our property, which caused us a couple thousand to build up the driveway and the garage to properly assess for the nearby floodlands. And that also includes grading costs for proper drainage of water. In addition, from when the lumber was purchased for our house, had it been purchased in January of 2023, we would have spent approximately $25,000 less on lumber, representing about a 33% decrease. I apologize for not having the numbers in front of you, but the producer price index released by the government, if you look at the numbers, I took an average from March, April, May, and June, which is when our materials were bought for house framing, stair framing, trusses, stuff that's just general wood. This does not include cabinets, wood that went into cabinets, flooring, or any doors, subfloors that are on our house. So I feel like this is on the low end what it would have been. In addition, we spent approximately $40,000 on well and septic costs for our house. When we submitted our building approval to the city, we were notified of potential plans to build a subdivision across the street. And they had notified us that if those plans do go into place, we would have a 3-year period to connect to city and water, which would render our well and septic system useless. The only use we would have for our well would be using it for watering our lawn or outside use. We would not be able to use that for the house. So if you took our construction cost of $562,800 and you subtracted off the extra we spent on lumber, other price increases due to changing the house, and you subtract our well and septic system, that would get you down to, I apologize, don't have a calculator in front of me, but that would bring you down to roughly $480,000. And we feel that the well and septic system should be excluded from our assessment because majority of the properties in the area have access to that, and they don't have to pay taxes on having a well and septic system because they're hooked up to city water and sewer. I'd just like to address the property appraisal, which is towards the back half of the document. The first page is labeled as appraisal of real property, a little picture of our empty plot prior to construction. After going through this last couple days, I noticed a couple discrepancies with this compared to what our actual property was. This appraisal includes a walkout basement. We do not have that on our property. It was in our construction plans, however, we had to scratch that idea when we had to adjust the house for the environmental protection line. I'm not sure what value would be assigned to that, but I feel that it's considerable. And you'd be able to find that on the 4th page of the appraisal report. About a third of the way down, there's a feature on the left side labeled basement and finished rooms below grade. The first line to the right of that labeled 1829 square feet, 15656 SWFO. The SFWO, apologies. WO represents walkout basement. That is not on our property, and I would be happy to have someone come look out and verify that. And right before that, the 15656 appears to be an error on this report. That number is supposed to represent the finished square feet of the basement, which ours is approximately 850. And if you were to look in more detail, comparing our property to the rest of these appraisal reports, it doesn't seem that this was a fair appraisal given to us by our bank. The appraiser was hired by our bank, so their number one goal is to get the bank to approve our mortgage. And conveniently, the value came out to approximately what our construction costs were. If you factor in the land and our house, together it was approximately $710,000. I think we paid $712,000, so we had to front some extra cash to cover that. If you look a couple pages before that, the page right before the appraisal of real property, this is just a kind of a comparison of the properties listed in our appraisal. And you'll see that the average property there has 35 or 34% more square feet finished than our house. So quite a stark difference. And unfortunately, none of these properties were within the city of West Bend. Several of these were within the town, a couple of those outside of the area. There was one West Bend property I was not able to find, Lot 15 Hunter's Trail. So I listed it there, but I could not find the property in the area to get the comparable assessment. I understand that the town's assessment properties is different than what we do here, so this is just kind of detailed if you wanted to reference, but looking at those assessments and comparing to our house, we had approximately 40% higher assessment than those properties, even though the appraisal said we had been marked as a comparable property. We believe that a reasonable assessment for the land is remaining as is, listed at $137,000 on this property. We have two other parcels of land that were factored into our appraisal. I think the total of those assessments came out to approximately $10,000, so we are not contesting the land. We feel that the improvements should be valued at $450,000. The adjustment to our improvements would represent a 24% decrease from the current assessment. And this is in line with metrics on the comparable assessments provided. And we acknowledge that there is value to having a new home and everything brand new. However, we find it disproportionate considering the minimal enhancements that were present on our property as of January 1st. Kindly request that you review this information and conduct a fair assessment of our property value in line with comparable properties in the area. Thank you. What questions can I answer for you?
You mentioned your building costs were $562. Was that before? That doesn't include the land costs? That's just construction?
Correct. We paid $150,000 to purchase the land in, I believe, February of 2021.
Thanks.
I have a question also. I guess this is on, when you compare the properties that are about like yours or greater than yours, how much land did they have?
I tried to exclude land. The number listed here is only the assessment for the improvements, because comparing the 8 acres of land that we have to, someone that may have 1 acre, 2.5 acres, 15 acres, just to kind of remove that factor out of there.
Okay, thanks.
That was the purpose of excluding that.
Any other questions? No.
Okay. All right, so you can have a seat. We'll call the assessor to, or does the assessor have any questions for him? Sorry.
No, we don't.
Okay. All right, so you can have a seat, and then we will have the assessor testify. Who's testifying on behalf of the assessor's office?
Bill Meyer, Assistant
Okay.
Assessor.
Okay. All right.
Okay, the subject property located at 250 West Rusco Road, tax key number 1119-253-0048. The issue is the taxpayer contends that the assessed market value of $695,500 should be reduced to $587,000. The current assessed valuation for the subject has been reviewed in preparation for this hearing. Submitted herewith are the results of our review. The background: the subject single new family home comprising of 2,656 square feet of living area situated on 5.39 acres. The subject has 856 square feet of finished basement living area. Additionally, there are 2 abutting parcels containing 3.18 acres. The subject site was purchased by the property owner February of 2021 for $151,000. In March of 2022, a permit for $540,000 was taken out by the property owner for purposes of construction of a new single-family dwelling. We have verified with the property owner that the cost for construction came in at $462,800. During open book, the property owner contacted our office stating that their value was too high. Based upon a review of our cost and the appraisal submitted for $710,000 done on January 19th, 2022, our review warranted a reduction in the assessed value. Valuation: the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual and case law set forth a 3-tier assessment methodology. Evidence of an arm's length sale of the subject property is best evidence of true cash value. Number 2, if there has been no recent sale of the subject property, an assessor may consider sales of reasonably comparable properties. Only if there has been no, number 3, only if there has been no arm's length sale and there are no reasonably comparable sales available, the assessor may use any of the 3rd-tier assessment methodologies. Within Tier 3, an assessor may consider all factors collectively which have a bearing on value of the property in order to determine its fair market value. These factors include cost, depreciation, replacement value, income, industrial conditions, location, and occupancy, sales of like property, book value, amount of insured carried, value asserted in prospectus, and appraisals produced by the owner. Page 3, there has been no sale of the subject property reported in the last 1 year. Upon review, we conclude that the appropriate method of valuation for the subject would be cost approach to value based upon the following. Subject is only 1 year old. An estimate of the construction cost of the subject listed on the permit that has been supplied to the city by the property owner. The subject does not suffer from any functional or external obsolescence. Because of the vintage of the improvements, physical depreciation can be reasonably estimated. Therefore, it is our opinion that the cost approach to value be established a reliable indication of value. For the cost approach, it's based on the principle of substitution. That is, a well-informed buyer will pay no more for a property than the cost of constructing an equally desirable substitute property with like utility. The basic steps in the cost approach are estimating the land value, estimating reproduction of replacement cost, new of the structure, estimating accrued depreciation, subtract accrued depreciation from the estimate of cost new to arrive at a present value for the improvements. Add present value of the improvements to the estimated land value for the total property value. On page 4, you'll see our valuation detail. These costs come from Volume 2 of the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual. There's a breakdown of everything listed. And the bottom value of $558,500 for the improvements, and at the top is the $137,000 for the land. Page 5 has the dwelling data specifications with square footages and bedroom, bathroom count, etc. And page 6 is a sketch of the property. Page 7 has the listing of the building permit, which has $540,000, and the sales history on the land, which was purchased February of 2021 for $150,000, which included all 3 parcels. In conclusion, on page 8, we recommend that the value of the subject property be set by recognition of the cost approach, which correlates with the permit costs submitted by the property owner. $137,000 for the land, improvements $558,500, for a total of $695,500. That's the conclusion of my case.
Does the board have any questions? Well, so I just have one question for clarity. The adjusted 580 or 558, 500 was adjusted prior to presentation of the tax roll?
Correct. That was adjusted during our open book period.
Okay, so what is basically on the tax roll is that you're not adjusting that as of today?
It's already done.
Okay.
The value's changed.
I just wanted to make sure that that was the case, so we don't have to, we're not adjusting anything today, we're just adopting, or it's just consideration of what's on the tax roll already. So,
correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the assessor's office from the board?
I just have a quick question. On page 2, verified property owner, cost of construction, $462,800. I thought on our last that the property owner testified it was $562,800. Am I missing?
Yes, that is correct. It should be 562.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep.
And pardon me, I have a question too, just because it's unique to have a property in the city that has well and septic. Obviously, excuse me. Obviously, when you're factoring in construction costs, you have to take that into account as far as a homeowner, right? If you're not hooking up to city sewer and water, is that, I guess I'm just curious how the assessor's office treats that when you have a property like that that's not, especially if you're using the cost approach. If you're comparing a house with well and septic that's brand new, where someone paid $40,000 versus, a house a mile away that maybe on city sewer and water that didn't have that expense. Is that factored into the equation at all, or is it just considered part of the total cost to build, regardless of what water source you're using?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess for us to extract that out of the marketplace, it's really hard to determine a value put on that. However, cost to improve a lot, I guess if whatever reason you had to sell the property tomorrow, you'd want to recuperate whatever costs that you have put into the site to recoup your costs that you built on the property.
And I guess I'm understanding it's approximately, just over 8 acres, so I'm assuming there's other tax key numbers that are, the additional acreage is dealt with, so we're not worried about that necessarily. Those are not being contested. We're just worried about the 5.3 whatever acres that the home sits on.
Yeah, the home site sits on the 5.39 acres. So the abutting parcels, I think Mr. Kirkpatrick said, I think our value is right around $10,000
Sure.
for the other parcels, which is kind of minor in relation to what we're looking at here on this site.
All right. Any other questions by the board? Nope. Any questions from the taxpayer or for the property owner for the assessor's office?
First question would be on page 4. On page 4 at the bottom, there's a market adjustment listed at 36.2%. Could you please explain that modifier?
Well, based upon our value within our model, it's hard to break that out and decipher because there's a lot of factors that go into the total value, such as our costs along with depreciation. I can't specifically break that out.
Okay. So then the second question, or a rebuttal to what the assessor mentioned regarding the well and septic system. If we go to sell our property and it gets inspected, we're required to disclose that there's potentially future plans to build the subdivision across the street, which would put a 3-year timeline to convert to city and water, rendering our septic and well system obsolete or valueless. So I guess I'd like that to be taken into consideration as well. As if we went to sell the home, we probably would not get full value for those improvements. And no further questions after that.
So just one quick follow-up, like, Bill, the market adjustments are listed, like, the bottom one he was referring to is the net, but those are all listed above, correct? Like, the bottom line is the net, but the other ones, neighborhood group, neighborhood, you know, one-story ranch, like, those are all, like, the 1.362 is the net of those, correct?
Right, yes.
Okay, so those are enumerated, your statement is you can't break down the specific neighborhood group of downtown Old Barton you're not breaking down why that's plus 1.4%, correct?
It's very difficult to correlate that because you're comparing different areas through the city, and not only how you would look at a neighborhood, but we have neighborhoods within neighborhoods, if you will. So it's hard to kind of extract, but we would be comparing a neighborhood within a neighborhood to another neighborhood.
But these are the methodologies you set forth for the mass appraisal or mass assessment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I was just going to say, for the homeowner, does that answer your question as well with the net market, that it's not its own separate, it's all of those together?
Yes, that answers the question, but it still leaves an unknown factor that those are just arbitrary percentages applied, and the assessor is not able to provide any concrete evidence to back those numbers up.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, just to explain, like, it's not an arbitrary one, it's all part of the assessment methodology, because the way assessment works is it's not individual appraisals, right? They're setting up methodology to assess how many properties within the city. So what they're doing is they have to consider various factors. So it could be neighborhood factors, it could be the style of house, it could be age of house, you know, the type of water, septic, et cetera. So they assign, you know, through, you know, basically as defined in the assessment manual and various other sources, they assign that methodology and then apply it en masse to the entire city to make those adjustments based on recent sales. So they aren't arbitrary, they're just, it's an incredibly complicated thing to set up the model, is the point they're making.
Yeah, it's a formula type system.
Correct.
Yeah.
The
Correct.
only
I
part
mean,
that
It's like if you go to any number of other things and say, hey, explain your algorithm, they're gonna look at you and say, this is like 10 years worth of work, we can't. So So that, it's not arbitrary, it's the algorithm established based on the assessment manual and all of the factors in the different parts of the city.
Right, and that would make sense on a going forward basis. However, if they're taking a cost approach and they're applying a modifier to the cost that is listed here, I guess that's where the disconnect that I'm not quite understanding. But thank you for explaining, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay, so let me turn my screen on so we can go through the form. Okay, so we have the assessment year 2023, the tax key, the property address, and property owners. I need to adjust. So the 2023 assessment value is $695,500, and I will add the land and improvements for that. There was confirmation of the hearing 48 hours or prior to today's date. The intent to file an objection was timely. Same board members. The property owner who appeared was Ryan Kirkpatrick. Testimony from, or the sworn individuals were Ryan Kirkpatrick and then the assessor's office. There was no presentation of recent sale. The land value isn't at issue. I'm not considering the land value a recent sale. And there was no comparable properties. The other factors were presented, and I listed off kind of the parts of the presentation, right? The assessments of comparable, greater, and significantly greater characteristic properties, the property characteristics, and the cost of construction. There was no other sworn testimony. Sworn testimony by the assessor was by Bill Meyer. Again, the estimated level of assessment, because it's a reval year, is 100%. Again, there were no recent sales of the property or recent comparable sales. And then the summary of the other factors presented was the cost approach, and subject property is 1 year old, the estimated construction costs listed on the permit, no functional or external obsolescence, and reasonable depreciation can be estimated. There was no other sworn testimony from the assessor's office. So going through the other factors again, for the findings, there is no comparable or recent sale of the property or comparable sales by either party. And then so at this stage, essentially what is being considered is the presentation of the tax or the property owner versus the cost approach factors set forth by the assessor's office. So is there any discussion, comments regarding the evidence? And I'll note those down.
I'll just make the comment. It's obviously it's difficult to. That's the word I'm looking for. It's difficult to overcome what's listed as the current assessment based on the cost approach because of the newness of the property and also the uniqueness of it. Given the lot size, obviously, it's not a cookie cutter property that you can just go and compare to, any other subdivision, so to speak. I appreciate the homeowner, supplying the different newer properties and what their values were, but it's unfortunately it's never quite apples to apples as far as size, cost of construction, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's within a range, but someone that may have missed out on construction materials being 25% cheaper versus someone that didn't. That's kind of the unfortunate part of the real estate market that we're in that, if you would have got in sooner versus more recently, prices obviously would have been less expensive. That's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Any other comments?
I mean, I agree with John. The assessor's cost approach came in close to what they obviously assessed it at, and, you know, looking at your testimony, actual costs are similar to it as well.
So I have, as far as the basis then, that the cost approach, what you're relying on is the cost approach based on the factors set forth by the assessor's office, and then also the lack of comparable property sales. Is that correct? And then,
Yep.
Most credible evidence is the cost approach analysis by the assessor's office? Okay.
Correct.
So need a motion for the decision then, and a second.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Review affirm the assessor's valuation is correct.
Okay, and then the factors I have selected from the form are the assessor's valuation is correct. Assessor presented evidence as to the fair market value of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined by the property assessment manual. There was not an issue raised as the classification, so I removed that one. I removed the agricultural and fractional assessment one. And then it's the property owner did not present sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness. Assessor's valuation is reasonable in light of the relevant evidence. You're sustaining the valuation. And then the present assessments, it's not relevant to present assessments of other properties as a basis of the market value. So are those the correct? So your motion is to adopt those?
Yes, please. That would include, those items would be included in my motion.
Okay. And then is there a second?
Second. Second.
Okay. And then roll call vote. Jonathan Corbett,
Aye.
Justin Reichert,
Aye.
Adam Wilkett,
Aye.
Marianne Ratushik.
Aye.
Okay, so motion carries. And then what we will do is we're going to, I'll finish filling in the last couple of details, and this will be printed out and signed by the clerk today. You'll get a copy of that, and then there'll be a notice regarding the assessment that goes out. So, okay, thank you.
Is there anything you had to finish up yet, Ian, or should we call the next one right away?
You can call the next one.
Okay. We're going to move on to agenda item number 3. Dennis Ryobeck? Property address 2635 Esker Drive, parcel number 291-1119-264-1302. Did I pronounce your name right, sir? Ryobeck?
Pardon me?
Is your last name spelled pronounced Ryobeck?
Why Robeck?
Why Robeck? Same.
Why walk when you could Robeck? Why Robeck?
Why Robeck? Oh, why Robeck? Okay, thank you. I think you were in here previously, but I'm going to read the kind of the rules of what's going on here, just so that we're all on the same page. The procedure we will follow in this hearing will be substantially as follows. First, we will read the pertinent portions of your objection form, and then you and a representative from the assessor's office will be sworn by the board clerk. You and the representative from the assessor's office will be asked to stipulate that the oaths and evidence in this case will serve as the oaths and evidence in each subsequent case. You will testify or make a statement as to the reasons for your objection and provide any evidence to support your objection. The members of the Citizens Board of Review and the assessor may then ask you questions. The assessor will then testify as to the basis for his assessment. The Citizens Board of Review members may also ask the assessor questions. You may then ask the assessor any questions you wish. The hearing will then be closed and the Citizens Board of Review will deliberate in open session. You will receive a written notice via certified mail from the city as to the decision made by the Citizens Board of Review. You're reminded the assessment can be changed by the Citizens Board of Review only on the basis of sworn oral testimony presented at this meeting and only in increments of $100 for real estate property. The value for this property is placed on the assessment roll by the city assessor is presumed correct unless rebutted by sufficient evidence provided by the property owner showing that value to be incorrect. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Will the clerk please swear in the property owner, please?
The assessors have sworn in prior to the hearing, so they are still under oath. The assessors are already sworn in. They're still under oath.
Okay.
So I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Do you have any materials? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you have any materials? Okay, you can pass
Pass
those
it
out.
out?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me ask you to speak up a little bit.
Sure. Try it. Yep.
If the microphones are working, they're not working well.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew,
I did notice that, actually.
can we turn up the volume in the chambers a little bit?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, as you can see, I've submitted to you the recent sales, which I am basing my my assessment on. As you can see, we've had 3 sales. One is first closing next month, which averages out to about $250 a square foot for the main level. All the units that I am referencing were built in 2019 by the same builder. All are 2-bedroom, 2 baths, full baths, and an attached garage. The net difference would be in the footages of the house. Based on the house that sold and closed in December 2701, it sold for $339.9 or $249 a square foot, unfinished lower level. The abutting unit, 2703, will close in October for $345 or $250 a square foot. The only unit that has hit $400,000 is 2710, which closed this month with 2,000 square feet, 600 of it being in a finished lower level, adding a full bath. So my basis for saying the assessment is too high is, first of all, there have been no sales over 400 until this month of a 2,000-foot finished lower level unit. My unit, as the other 3 units, are just basic level houses with no finished lower levels. Using that premise of $250 a square foot for main level, my assessment should be about $392,000. All the finishes on the outside are identical. Everything is identical. So therefore, if you're going up to new values of 2023, there's no houses that sold over 400. The only one made it was the recent one by $100. And that had 2,000 square feet in it with a finished lower level. So my appeal to you is to reduce my assessment to about $392, which comes out to $250 a square foot. Any questions? It's really pretty simple. I'm not going into anything other than that because they're all the same units.
No questions.
Any questions? Okay. Any questions from the assessor's office?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. So the assessor's office is going to present now. And then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions
Okay.
of them, so.
I'll sit down and wait for that.
Right.
Okay.
So is it Bill again?
Yeah, Bill Meyer, Assistant Assessor.
Okay.
Okay, the subject property, the tax key number 1119-264-1302, address at 2635 Esker Drive. It's a side-by-side condo that was built in 2019, having a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, square feet, 1,561 square feet. There's some other features listed here, with the current assessed value at $414,200. That equates to $265 per square foot. Comparable number 1, tax key number 1119-264-1282, address 2619 Esker Drive. It's a side-by-side condo built in 2018, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,364 square feet. Other features listed. That's sold in November of 2021 for $370,000. Time adjusted equates to $406,500 or $298 per square foot. Comparable number 2, tax key number 1119-264-1182, address 2611 Moraine Court. It's a 2016 side-by-side condo having 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,364 square feet. Other features listed. Sold May of 2021 for $366,500. The time-adjusted sale price comes to $426,500 or $313 per square foot. Comparable number 3, tax key number 1119-264-1172, address at 2603 Moraine Court. It's a 2016 side-by-side condo having 2-bedroom, 2-bath, square feet of 1,364 square feet. Other features listed. Sold October of 2021 for $330,000. Time adjusted up to January 1st of this year equates to $365,700 or $268 per square feet. A range of market value between $268 to $313 a square foot is indicated by the market sales analyzed. Within this range, the subject market value of $265 per square foot is considered reasonable. Therefore, we might recommend no change in the current assessed value. That concludes my valuation.
Any questions for the assessor's office from the board?
I guess the only question I would have is just looking at Mr. Wyrebeck's thing, his little spreadsheet here, 2701 Esker Drive, that's sold in December of 22. And again, you might just have to enlighten me. So obviously you're using properties that sold in 2021. Why not the most recent? Because that would have been prior to the other two, I can see sale date wise wouldn't have even been known by the assessor's office at the time that the assessments were completed. So I guess I'm just curious about why.
True. Yes, that's a good question. I did look at this sale, and I looked at it hard, and I thought, well, it does have the lesser square footage. Couple other things, whether you weigh it out, the time of the year that it did sell in December, It was a cash sale, and its backyard faces Main Street. I'm not disregarding it as a bad sale, by no means. There might be a little stigma with those items that I had just mentioned, but all these, everything is in that whole complex that was on my comp sheet, along with Mr. Ryback, what he presented.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Wyerbeck, do you have any questions for the assessor's office?
No, other than he doesn't have the recent sales, September and December of last year. Using the time of market, that house was up for $355, but it ended at $340.
Yep.
And that's the average, and I'm taking averages because I'm sure that's what he
Yep.
just stated. It's about $250 a square foot on main levels.
So,
Lower levels considerably less value than the main level. But since there's nothing to support 440, there's no sale there. How can you assess me? And I love the number.
Yep.
But if somebody wants to buy my house, they're gonna go and get what the averages are, and they're gonna say to me, you're asking way too much for the house because it won't be able to appraise out for loans. It's around $250 a square foot for finished level.
so I will note, just so you know, like the sale in October of or the sale in September of this year and the sale of October of this year.
October's gonna
Yeah, but it doesn't play into the assessment because it's as of January 1.
Because I know he sold the house, I wanted to know, did he get far more than his, because it's an abutting unit, did he get that much more, or, and it was $5,000 difference between what she sold for and he sold for.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I wanted to note those two can't be considered.
The assessment can't be more than 400,000 because there's nothing there, there's one unit sold for that number of 400,000.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? No? Okay. So I will pull up the finding form. All right, and again, so background information here, and again, I will note, I'll fill in the land and improvements value before it's signed and the time of the hearing, but the hearing, is at 11:30 a.m. today. So we have tax key number 291-1119-264-1302, 2635 Esker Drive, Dennis and Nancy Wyrobeck, who are the property owners with the same mailing address. The current assessed value as of January 1, 2023 was $414,200. Hearing was today. Proper notice was given. Timely notice of the intent to file objection was given. Same appearances by the board. Testimony sworn in was Dennis Wyrobeck and then Jeff Yoder and Bill Meyer. Dennis Wyrobeck presented evidence, our sworn testimony. There was no recent sale. The three properties he presented were 2701, 2703, and 2710 Esker Drive. There were no other specific factors presented. Presentation by the assessor's office was by Bill Meyer. Again, 100% assessment value for the year because of the reval. There was no recent sale. The three properties used by the assessor's office are listed, and there are no other factors presented, no other witnesses. As far as determinations, there was no recent sale. There were comparable properties presented by both property owners, so we would need finding for that because of the comparable sale for the presented by the property owner and by the assessor's office. So I guess the first question as far as determination, there was the one recent comparable sale. The other two, I would suggest don't count because of the dates of the sale. They weren't prior to the first of the year. Do you, the other determination there is, are the attributes satisfactorily adjusted for the differences in the subject and their contribution to value? I guess there was a summary presented, but it wasn't to the same detail as an assessment report would be, so I don't think you can make the determination that there was a direct comparison between the two. Is that fair? Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So then, the assessor's office did present recent comparable sales as well. And were those comparable sales satisfactorily adjusted? I guess the question is, I mean, they have the data as far as that. Is there any concern about the adjustments made by the assessor's office?
I personally don't have any.
Okay. Is anybody, so there's no issues. So then are the assessor's office properties the ones the board is relying on to make a determination? I see nodding. Okay.
I'd say also based on the fact that they did take into consideration the sale in December of '22 and looked at the ones that they presented as more in line.
Okay. Okay. There are no other factors then. This is not based on other factors. So I guess I'd look for a motion and then a second for the valuation. And then I'll read off the factors if it's a motion to approve the assessor's valuation. Or I'll read off the factors either way, I guess. Is there a motion?
Excuse me, I'll make a motion to uphold the assessment of the property by the assessor's office.
Okay, and then the factors I have noted are assessor's valuation is correct. The assessor presented evidence of the fair market value using the assessment methods in compliance with the assessment manual. Property owner did not present sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness. Assessor's valuation is reasonable in light of the relevant evidence. You're sustaining the same valuation as set by the assessor. And then the last one is not relevant in this case. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So
Okay.
Ian, to clarify,
Yes.
we're not accepting the appraisal that he supplied, or the sale that he supplied?
So he did present the sale. It is a comparable property. The issue is that there's not the adjustment. There's no, you don't have the analysis of the adjustment to make it comparable to this property, like you would have on the assessor's report or any other appraisal report. There's the factors to adjust that based on square footage and everything like that, and that was not presented directly, other than a, calculation of per square foot. So,
And another question, so Because the other two comparable properties provided by the property owner were after the legal date, we can't. go
Correct.
with
They
this.
are not,
Okay.
they are not, they would not be considered comparable for the valuation as of January 1, 2023. And one of them has not closed yet, so, I mean, the sale has not occurred, so. Okay, motion and second. Any other comments or questions?
I have one more question,
Yep.
sorry. So as we go through the roll vote, if everyone's an aye, is that the only way it passes? Or how does that work?
I think it's majority. It's majority, correct. So, okay, so Jonathan Corbett,
Aye.
Justin Reichert,
Nay.
Adam Williket,
Aye.
Marianne Ratushik.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so procedurally, we'll finalize this form that summarizes the determination, and we'll get that out to you. And then there will be just a notice of the assessment.
So it's been turned down?
Yes, yep. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you. So, procedurally, do you know what the lunch situation is?
They were gonna have, they're gonna have boxes in
Okay.
the room for us.
Okay. So the last two, Shoelist and Toth, both canceled? And I assume you are Robert and Linda McDonald? Okay. So technically, we should have lunch at this point, but if you guys want to proceed with the last one and then finish everything out, is that okay?
Yeah.
Do you need to?
I'm okay to go forward if you guys are.
Okay.
I just have to go get the file. so-
Okay, that's what I was, I saw a discussion, I was wondering if that was the case.
No one's angry, are they?
No.
So if I,
Do we have any hangry board members? No? Okay.
did I hear that correctly, that Shoelist
Shoelist canceled as well.
canceled?
I got notification probably about 20 minutes ago that he canceled.
Is
Yeah,
there-
via phone call.
Is there a concern about that?
Upon review of the property record card and a computer conversion that we had, it was determined that part of the structure that is built on to the home, we didn't have that. It didn't convert over from our old system, so I was going to recommend a amended assessment to include that, which would increase the value of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, he called Amy, spoke with him, and he said he couldn't get out of work, so.
Okay. We can revisit that at a later date and notice, we can add that to a future agenda to do that.
Okay, I will go get the McDonald's file. Hold on.
Okay. Anybody need a quick break or anything? Yeah. Okay. So I think we're ready to move forward. If you want to give the spiel, and then we can start up.
Sure. We are on to item agenda number 5, Robert and Linda McDonald, 1907 Tumbleweed Circle, parcel number 291-1120-303-0189. I'll read the procedure to you guys just so that you're aware of how this will all kind of work. First, we will read the pertinent portions of your objection form, and then you and a representative from the assessor's office will be sworn by the board clerk. You and the representative from the assessor's office will be asked to stipulate that the oaths and evidence in this case will serve as the oaths and evidence in each subsequent case. You will testify or make a statement as to the reasons for your objection and provide any evidence to support your objection. The members of the Citizens Board of Review and the assessor may then ask you questions. The assessor will then testify as to the basis for his assessment. The Citizens Board of Review members may also ask the assessor questions. You may then ask the assessor any questions that you may have. The hearing will then be closed, and the Citizens Board of Review will deliberate in open session. You will receive a written notice via certified mail from the city as to the decision made by the Citizens Board of Review. You are reminded that the assessment can be changed by the Citizen Board of Review only on the basis of sworn oral testimony presented at this meeting and only in increments of $100 for real estate property. The value for this property is placed on the assessment roll by the city assessor, is presumed correct unless rebutted by sufficient evidence provided by the property owner showing that value to be incorrect. Do you have any questions? The city assessor were sworn earlier, but I will ask the clerk now to swear the both
Please
of you
step to the
in.
podium. If you could raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Okay. So you guys have materials? So you can pass out the materials, and then one or both of you, whoever's presenting, can step up to the podium.
Yeah. We'll need you at the mic just because it's all being recorded.
Thank you.
Do you want to, can you grab a couple of those and give them to the assessor's office? You can just- Oh, that goes with it? Yeah.
I know.
All right, you guys can proceed. I think we got it all spread out.
Okay. What we've handed you are, one, an appraisal that we had done by the Realtor that also appraised our home when we bought it in 2020. And he ran comps for the area, and they're all current. And as you can see on there, the result of his comparison analysis brought the price to $433,595. And you can go through, and what I did is, if you look at page 2 on that, kind of went through and did a little highlighting. I showed all the 4-bedroom homes that are listed there as compared to the 3-bedroom. We're a 3-bedroom home. And as you can see, we fall quite a bit into that 4-bedroom home range rather than down into the 3-bedroom home range. And then if you continue down through those, you'll see the highlighted ones that show the 4 bedrooms on the next page 3 and 4. Then if you get to the other highlighted ones when they show the descriptions, because we did partially finish our basement. So on those, I did then highlight the other homes that have either full finished basement with full partial exposure, or just full finished basements in general. So I highlighted those too, so that we would be comparing apples to apples. Because I understand The other house we're gonna talk about in a minute doesn't have a doesn't have a finished basement, I understand that, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So I did highlight the homes that are comparable to ours, 3-bedroom, full finished basements. Most of those, some of those at least, have exposed basement where they have full windows. We do not. We have a regular basement, just the small little window. We have no egress windows. We can't put, a bedroom down there. We just have a rec room, is all we did. We drywalled, put in a half bath, which was already plumbed in when we bought the house. We did a little half bath down there and a rec room. So those would be the main differences, or the main comparisons on the comp houses to ours. And so I think that will help you, at least when you flip through, to look at the highlighted areas to kind of see where they fall. And then I think that second page, number 2, really shows you on a good graphic layout where we fall and why we feel we fall too high with having a 3-bedroom.
We match more with the 4 bedrooms, price-wise.
Price-wise, and
assessment value
we
than the
really
3
should not.
bedroom.
Now, just another side note, that single page we gave you is a house, I believe about it's 1937, we're 1907. So it's like 4 houses up, same side of the street. We know the lady who owned this house. This is the exact same floor plan as our house. The only difference is between this house that just sold in June for $394. The only difference is between that house and our house is she has a 2 3/4 car garage. We have a 3. She did not have a finished basement. We have that rec room. And ours is 69 square feet bigger on the main floor. Those are the differences. Now, in my humble opinion, for those few differences, a price point of $394 shouldn't go up to where ours at.
$476.
At $476. That seems like a lot to pay for a rec room and a quarter of a garage. This has the same view out the back of their house as ours. We've been in her house. It was in immaculate condition. She lived there just with her husband. It was a beautiful home. So I think this is our strongest argument on why we feel we are out of line. If you, again, want to go back to the other ones, another one that I think stood out to me a lot was the other 2-bedroom on, let me pull up my notes here. The 2-bedroom on, or I'm sorry, 3-bedroom on listing as number 2 in the comps and number 3. They both sold for under $400,000. And also the number 4. They all sold for under $300,000.
400.
I'm sorry, I keep saying 300. And I told them to be here to correct me. They all sold under $400,000. So I'm just, again, trying to compare, and this is what the realtor said. He came right out and said that he felt it was too high a number, and that if he was listing our house, he could not list it for that amount. And he was the one that we had appraise it in, when we bought it.
In 2020, when we bought the house.
And we bought the house for
$340 in 2020.
Yeah. And it was a private sale from my son, but it was an appraised value, because we wanted to make sure my son got the full amount.
Yeah.
So that is gonna show up on, they're gonna argue that, well, it was a private sale in the family. We wanted our son to get as much out of that house as he could, because he built a new house.
He wasn't going to screw us.
Yes,
We
we were
weren't
not,
gonna screw him.
no.
We went
So
and
we
got
had
it
it,
assessed.
we had
Gave
we
him
had the realtor come out and say, what would you list this house for if it was on the regular market?
That's what we gave him.
And that's what we gave him. So we didn't underpay then, but we do not want to overassess now. So I don't know if anybody can they ask questions? Anybody has any questions that I can address that we just talked about?
Any questions?
Or anything that I didn't highlight?
Yeah, could you list by address the ones that you feel are most comparable to yours in your paper
Sure.
here?
Number
2,
which is on 6041 Holly Lane. It's
on page 3 of the
yeah, it's on page
handout.
3 of the handout. And then on the bottom of that one, it will also be the number 3 and the number 4, which are 2804 Kildare Court and 207 Bittersweet Drive. And those are all on the same, on that page number 3. Those are the little shots of those 3. Because those are the 3-bedroom. All the rest are 4-bedroom.
Yeah, and those are highlighted. All the ones that are highlighted are all
Right,
the
yeah,
4-bedroom
yeah.
homes, which
And-
ours is the 3.
And some of the, now that you're talking, I heard you talking to the other gentleman, some of the other 4-bedrooms are pending. They have not sold. So those you can't use as, these are all closed properties. These 3-bedroom ones have all closed at those prices. And those, I think, are, the one is a 3-bedroom, 2.1 bath, little, just right around the same square footage as we have. And that one had, I believe that one had the Holly Lane one, yeah, that one has a full shower and finished basement, and then the other one on Killdeer, number 3, bear with me here as I go through 2, has a full basement with full-size windows, and number 4 has a full-size windows and a full shower bath in the basement also. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
Any questions from the assessor's office?
Not at this time.
Okay. Right. So we're going to let the assessor's office present then, and then we will, if you have any questions for them,
Okay.
you can ask at that after they present.
Okay.
So,
Do we sit back down here?
yep, you can sit down
Okay.
there, and then they will present, and they'll give
All
you
right.
their materials.
Okay, the subject property, tax key number 11203030189, address at 1907 Tumbleweed Circle. It is a 2012 ranch that has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, total living area of 1,735 square feet. Other features listed below. And with the current assessment at $476,200, that equates to $274 per square foot. Comparable number 1, tax key number 11203030170, address at 2521 Tumbleweed Circle. That is a ranch that was built in 2013, 4-bedroom, 3 baths, 1,682 square feet. Other features listed below. That's sold in July of 2022 for $462,000. Time adjusted to January 1st equates to $477,800 or $284 per square foot. Comparable number 2, tax key number 11203030125, address at 1834 Clover Street. That was a ranch that was built in 2012, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet living area. Sold in March of 2022 for $402,000. Time adjusted to $428,200 or $268 per square foot. Comparable number 3, tax key number 11201830256, address at 701 Creekside Drive. It's a 2005 ranch, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,667 square feet. Other features listed below. Sold for $425,000 May of 2022. Time adjusted up to January 1st comes to be $445,600 or $267 per square foot. Comparable number 4, tax key number 11200720317, address at 1212 Lily Avenue. It's a 2005 ranch, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, square feet of 1,599 square feet. The other features listed below. That one sold May of 2022 for $430,000. Time adjusted to January 1st comes to $451,100 or $282 per square foot. A range of market value between $267 and $284 a square foot is indicated by the market sales analyzed. Within this range, the subject market value of $274 per square foot is considered reasonable. Therefore, we recommend no change in the current assessed value. And that concludes my valuation.
Does the Board of Review have any questions?
I guess I'm just wondering if you guys can explain again, maybe to us and to the homeowners. So obviously, again, when you bring in a very recent sale, that's not a property that you guys had access to at the time that the assessments were done on January 1st. So you're looking at information from prior to January 1st, 2023, and then the adjustment is made based on the time adjustment, or however you time adjusted sale price. I guess I don't know if that warrants further explanation, but I think in some cases it does, because we're looking, you look at recent sales, that's what most of us do. But looking back at the comps, so to speak, that you use, those are all, from 2022.
Yeah, these comparables were utilized for establishing our values as of the first of the year, and not that, you can wait however much you would want to in a 2023 sale.
So we're not allowed to use 2023 sales.
Correct. Correct. The valuation is as of January 1st, 2023. So it can't use this. It's not applicable to use a sale as of September of this year, or whatever, to value as of the date of the year. It's no different than, the valuations for properties are taken as of the first of the year, and if they subdivide or put a condo over it after the first of the year, that's not part of the assessment for this year. That would be on next year's. Any other questions from the Board of Review? Okay. If you guys have questions, if you can step up there, just because we're recording it and we want you on mic.
So I guess my question is, obviously, if you look at the last page of or page number 11 on my sheets, it shows, and I understand what you're saying, that they were assessed as of January, which I was unaware of. It shows the trend, obviously, is going down. So when you're saying you can't use current comps for evaluation, then can you get reassessed next year? Or can I come in front of this board in the future and say, well, now I want to be reassessed?
You certainly should discuss that with there's open book, and you certainly should discuss that with the assessor's office at that time. Because yes, that's your opportunity to talk to the assessor's office, and again, if you present, you would present these sales in relation to the assessment next year, correct?
Where we're coming from, we got our letter of assessment in August. The gal up the road that we're talking about, and I know you can't use that. We know her. She comes back and tells us the house sold for $394. In August, I find out.
He's saying that.
I know, I understand that, but you understand where we're coming from.
Yep.
476.2, 394. She's 4 houses away from us. Basically, it's got the same house.
Okay.
I bought it for $340.
The other thing I would like to ask to the assessors maybe is, we do know, because we're a pretty close-knit subdivision and people walk by and we talk, We do know at least 3 homes in our subdivision that have had their assessments lowered. On one by 20,000, one by 30,000. So obviously, they were all assessed by this same program at the same time. They, by making phone calls and talking to, and they started earlier than we did. We had some health problems in the family. We got started a little later. They were going back and forth with the assessor's office for the past month or 2. In our same subdivision, they have had theirs lowered. And like I said, there's 3 that we know of, and we haven't talked to everybody. So obviously, there is some discrepancies in there on what they're actually saying is fair market value and what maybe isn't fair market value. I guess I would go from that standpoint too, that had we had more time to maybe discuss more with the assessor, we could have been one of those people too, where they would have agreed to lower it.
Well, and I can't obviously speak to specifics, but I know a lot of times it's, again, you see the kind of the rubric they use to do the assessment. So sometimes there's, mistakes on the number of bathrooms, or, I mean, there's a lot of the factors that a lot of times, the property card is an
I understand what you're saying, but these people did not have that.
And you probably heard them talk about one of the people who had been canceled, that in reviewing the property card, it was actually deficient,
Right.
So, I mean, they're going based on the information they have in the system, and, it's, so there may have been adjustments there. It's hard to speak to specifics as to what the adjustments were, why the adjustments were made, so.
That they had.
I don't have.
He had a phone call.
When I had first called in, I think I talked to a Terry at the assessor's office, and she was looking at it, my first phone call in, and she was saying, and I forget, she was talking about like the percentage, like the majority, 50, she was talking 50%, and then she looked at our house, our property, and she says, oh, yours at like 56.8 or something like that. She goes, yeah, we were assessed more. Said no more than that, but other than she acknowledged that the average was 50%. And I don't know what she was actually, I didn't, my notes, I didn't, at the time we just started talking, and that comment came out of her mouth.
Well, and then the
Initially.
homes that they were looking at to compare that had sold prior to the January, were over on the park side of our subdivision, where they do have exposed basements. Because when my son picked his lot, he could either have the one where we are, where we could have the bigger garage, or he could have had the other 2 lots that had the exposed basement. Now, you get an exposed basement with full windows. That's a little different living space than a
Basement.
in my opinion, so if we're up against those people that have nice big windows or walkouts in their basement, compared to us with a regular basement, I would think that those homes wouldn't be necessarily absolutely comparable. And that's our other argument. The 2 homes that they were using, that the assessor was using, were homes that I know, because we looked at those lots, could have had walkout basements, or do have walkout basements.
Bill had given me
Yeah.
2 homes, and we went and looked at them.
Yep.
That's what we found.
Because those were lots that we had looked
Those
at.
faced the park.
Yeah.
You're
So-
referring to ones that were on the
Yeah.
comparables?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't know, I'd have to look on there closer again to look at exactly which ones. But, so I guess those are my main questions, is if we can use this information going forward to get reassessed, or if we can look at doing something now to make it so that we don't have to do that down the road. Okay, did you say everything you needed to say?
I do.
We'll see if they have questions for us.
Yeah. I see you guys discussing. I don't know if you have a comment.
Yeah, I do
there.
have one comment. So you can contest your assessment every year. We do have open book period,
Okay.
but we are not planning to do a revaluation next year. So the assessments still would be based on January 1 of 2023.
When does that change?
The next time we do a reassessment,
which is how-
with the market changing the way it is, we anticipate it probably being sooner than later. So maybe 2 to 3 years, but I don't think next year will be a revaluation year. It's not planned at this time.
Okay.
So we kind of hit
But
bad
you
timing.
can still contest next year if you'd like to. You can call us and we can, further the conversation, or if you ever decide to come to board of review, you can do that anytime. But a revaluation year, does not happen currently every year. So just wanted to clarify.
And I'll note, you don't have to wait till open book. Like, you certainly, as they're wrapping up, kind of this assessment year, because I think they're still kind of in the heat of some of the, especially the commercial stuff, as we're wrapping that up, I start that conversation and just figure out when the best time to meet is. You don't have to wait until open book in May. I mean, start the conversation on the front end, because
Obviously, what we'd like to do is resolve something today.
Yeah.
If we all are in agreement that something's out of kilter here, why not take care of it now rather than just kick the can down the road? You know what I mean?
Well,
That's our position. Because like I said, when all of a sudden August, the letter comes, here you got, and
correct.
we start
And then we're
doing our
taking your
due
time, or
diligence
everybody's time again.
and looking
Well-
at what we're, finding out, our findings are, the 476 too just does not.
Well, and I'll make kind of two comments. One is kind of the regular comment that the kind of the misconception about assessments in general, which is like assessments aren't appraisals; they're mass assessment. It's we had this discussion earlier with somebody else that there's a series of factors that get applied, and they get applied evenly across the city. So. And that's why when you look at it, your assessment is not your fair market value typically, right? It's an indicator you can use to have a decent idea of where you might sit, but it's mass assessment, and so out of necessity they aren't going through in high detail the same way with every house the way you would with an appraisal, right? They review when building permits are closed and see what changes were made so that they can document on the property card. But it's an algorithm applied to all houses across the city based on different factors. So the type of house, the age of the house, the neighborhood you're in, all of those factors. So that's one thing. I mean, the other issue is, as was noted, like all of the sales you have are this year, which
Yeah,
don't really
I did
factor into
realize
that. Certainly, they would be the sales that the assessor's office would be looking in and applying similar analysis to for next year. So that's why I say have a discussion sooner rather than later about that, and hopefully there can be some resolution based on that.
I guess I mentioned before in talking to Terry at your office, she used that, again, the percent, 50% versus we sat at 56.8 or whatever it was. What was she referring to there? Because she said that we were higher than most. What was she referring
So
to?
50% would be an average that we are seeing with commercial and residential,
Okay.
roughly 50%. Some people went up more than 50%, some were below 50%. So it's a mass appraisal.
Okay.
And so some properties went up 100% or more. So it's been 5 years since we did a revaluation. The market changed a lot. So she probably was just making a comment that,
Right.
yeah, you
That's
went
how it
up a
started.
little
She just
higher
said,
than.
"Oh, you're a little higher."
A little higher than the average,
Right.
but yeah, it's just not meaning you're over assessed.
No,
It's just,
no.
yeah, so a lot of people have tax questions. How's this gonna affect my taxes? So if you're at the 50% level, I would say between 35 and 50%, somewhere in there, there's gonna be a line. If you're less, if you're at that number or less, your taxes could stay the same. If you're over 50%, I would definitely anticipate you could see a little bit of an increase.
Yep.
We don't know where that line will be, but
Yeah, the 50% increase doesn't mean a 50% increase in taxes. I mean, they
Well,
take
no,
the
no, no,
entire
no, we
equalized
know that.
value,
She
and
was
yeah.
just doing
We
a
were just wondering why we were
comparison.
higher.
And like I said, I had it in my notes where right away it was 56.8.
Correct.
compared to
And that average, it depends on what your assessment was last time. Last reval, my assessment went up less than other people's because there had been a recent sale. This time it went up more than average. So I mean, it just depends on a whole bunch of factors. What was your assessment last time? How did that adjustment for your neighborhood? What was the correlation between last time and this time for the neighborhoods? Was there a recent sale? Somebody who just bought their house and had just been reassessed last year because they bought their house may have had almost a 0% adjustment because they were just reassessed to what their sale price was. So, I mean, it just depends on, or somebody who just finished major construction, you know, again, there's so many factors out there as far as where you fall on that continuum. So that, but the.
So I
the
guess
ab-
go ahead.
Sorry.
Finish. I'm
Nope,
sorry.
you can.
I guess my one request of the board would be to just look at the fact that the homes that we were prior to January compared to had features that we don't have with that exposed basement areas. So that to me isn't comparing, I don't feel comparing apples to apples in what we have as compared to what they had. That's just my opinion because like I said, I've lived in a home before we moved here 2 years ago, I lived in a home with a full walkout basement. That's a lot more living space than not having that. It's just where you can put bedrooms in, you can do a lot of things with that area that we can't do in our house. We don't have that opportunity. The homes that we were being comped with for our valuation from the assessor's office do. So that, and I can go back and if you want to bring me the sheet, I think I can show you which ones where they are, but.
Yeah, which ones are you referring
Not
to?
in the sheet they gave us. Because like I said, we looked at those lots in detail before my son bought the one he bought. So it would be,
One, comparable.
yeah,
number.
comp number 1, and I believe,
There, how about-
oh, that's the only one they're
Tumbleweed.
showing. Okay, he talked about 2 of them over there, but comp number 1 is the one that is, and actually that's the highest one here. It's showing at 477. That has a walkout or an exposed basement, because that was the lot we looked at. So that is the highest one on their comp list too. That's showing at 477.8, which is where they have us at, and we do not have a walkout full or a exposed basement. So if you look at those other ones, I think we should, honestly, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I feel we should be more in line with the other 3 that are listed there and take out that 477.
Can I ask the assessor a question?
Yes.
So in reference to comp number 1, so the 477.8, the time adjusted sale price, is that indicative of that property's assessed value as well, or is that just what you would anticipate that sale price to be? If I'm asking that correctly, do you know what I mean? Are they one and the same, the time adjusted sale price, or are they 2 separate numbers?
Well, based upon the sale date of July of 2022, and looking at the sale price of 462, we determined that the trend on an annual basis was a certain percentage, then we break it down per month. So with progression and appreciation in the marketplace, we want to look at that sale. Where would that sell at the point of time of January 1st of 2023, which is our lien date of our assessments?
But I think what he's asking though is when you see the comps there, the time adjusted sale prices, are those indicative of where those properties assessments would be for this tax year? They aren't the exact amount, but they would be indicative of those, correct?
Well, they'd be based upon when they were sold, but yeah, the assessments are, obviously, if we'd be looking at another subject property, we would be looking at comparables that are similar and adjusting those comparables to January 1st of this year as well.
But if you take the 25-21 tumbleweed, the actual assessment for that one, is the assessment the time adjusted sale price for that? Is that what the assessment for this year would be? For that
No.
property?
No.
Okay,
No.
it would be based on the other comparables, the same factors?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
What the other comparables sold for on a per square foot basis.
yeah, okay. That's
Do
what
you,
you're,
do you understand what I'm getting at, Mrs. McDonald?
do understand.
That that's
I
not
understand what-
necessarily the assessed value for that
Right,
property?
I understand that, but again, I'm talking, if you compare a house like ours, my point was with the basement, with the exposed and non-exposed, they're going to be, it's going to be a more valuable house because there's more livable square footage that can be used for bedrooms, whatever that we can't do. So that's the one in there that I guess I have the biggest contention with when they compared us to that one, or they're using that as a comparison. I take the other 3, or the other 3 on there and say, okay, yeah, I would I would be okay with those comparisons. This is the one that I have the biggest objection to. Again, because we looked at that property. We were going to build on that property. And I know it is not the same as the property we ended up picking. Or my son. I say we because we did it with him. We were the advisory council on that. But you know what I'm saying? And it was a big decision. Do we want to have an exposed basement or do you want to have a 3-car garage? Dad talked him into the 3-car garage because Dad has a 3rd car. But anyway, he would have wanted the walkout basement, as most of you probably would too. And I'm saying I don't think that's a fair comp for us. That's my argument on that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I guess that's, unless you have a question for us. Anyone?
So I guess, so even taking comp 2, 3, and 4, the average per square foot is 272.33, and yours is actually at 274. So we're right there, even given taking those last 3.
Okay.
That's kind of what
But then, so you're saying that those numbers that they have,
So if you averaged all 4, it would
Okay.
actually be higher than what you're assessed at.
Right.
So they do, obviously, in looking at this, adjust it, probably based on some of those aspects that you're talking about.
so you think they've already adjusted it for that?
Well, if you look at the adjusted price per square foot there in the bottom, so you're at 274, and then that one you're
was
referencing
that,
is at
284?
284. So they've already kind of made an adjustment of $10 per square foot
Okay.
in that regard. And I don't know what necessarily that's, if that's for the walkout basement, if that's for something else. But, you know, in relation to the other price per square foot, you know, again, it's an average of that, right? As you can see in that very bottom line, it's a range
Yes,
of
I
market
see that
value.
now.
Yeah.
Well, I still think we're over, obviously, or we wouldn't be here and wouldn't put this kind of time into arguing about it, but I do still think we're over by at least what some of our fellow neighbors have been dropped by. Because obviously they must have found out they were over too. So that's my opinion on that. Okay? You have anything you want to add?
Any other questions, comments? Okay. All right, so do you guys have any other questions for the assessor?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
So what we're gonna do is we are gonna go through the determination form and kind of review that, and then they will deliberate and vote. So you guys can sit down. I'm gonna project it on the screen, and then we can go through everything. Okay. So the determination form, tax parcel with the address, Robert and Linda McDonald. I have the current assessment there and the hearing date and time. The objector received written confirmation of the hearing date. There was timely,
If I can just interject real quick, you had 12:30 a.m. on there.
oh, you're right.
Yep.
Sorry, thank you.
We've been here a while, but not that
Yes,
long.
yes, you're right. Thank you. They did receive they did file timely notice of intent to object. We have the same appearances. The sworn testimony was Robert and Linda McDonald, and the sworn parties were Robert and Linda McDonald, Jeff Yoder, and Bill Meyer. Sworn testimony by Robert and Linda McDonald. There was not a recent sale that was the basis of the consideration. They did have present recent sales. I will add the note that the sales were in 2023. There were no other factors specifically addressed. There's no other testimony on their behalf. Bill Meyer, I'm going to add Jeff because he did make a few comments. Both the assessors did provide some testimony. We have the 4 properties that they used. There were no other factors. And again, because it's a reval year, the estimated level of assessment for the current year is 100%. So we did not consider the board did not consider a recent sale. There were the presentation of the recent comparable sales. So the findings are that, yes, the property owner did present, but I think that there was a sufficient breakdown of the attributes. Would that be accurate? And same for the assessor. Because of the dates in question, it's the assessor. Is it correct to say the assessor's properties are the ones that you are relying on to make the determination?
Yes.
Yes, okay. There are no other factors to be considered. And so, all right. So I would look for a motion to either modify or accept the assessor's valuation or modify the valuation.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay. And then I am modifying the actual findings or the basis. So I included the assessor's valuation is correct. The fair market value was determined based on the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual. Property owner did not present sufficient evidence primarily due to the dates of the sales. Assessors to rebut the presumption of correctness. The assessor's valuation is reasonable in light of the relevant evidence, and that you're sustaining the valuation as set by the assessor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I would look for a second.
Second.
Okay. And then a roll call vote. Jonathan Corbett,
Aye.
Justin Reichert,
Aye.
Adam Williquette,
Aye.
Marianne Ratushik.
Aye.
All right, so procedurally what will happen is this will get signed, there'll be a notice that goes out. And then, like I said, just have the conversation with them moving forward, because I think that's the most important thing, as you noted, just having time to have that discussion. Yep, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Do we know who that is? Oh, wait. What's that? Is that the late
That's
one?
The extraordinary?
We'll take that up at the October 4th. Oh, yeah, we need to verify. I had emailed with Amy. We have the October 4th date on the calendar. Do you guys have the motions to dismiss? Like Amy had said that those are ready to go. Have they been?
They're on the agenda.
Okay, have they been sent out to the parties?
I had asked Elizabeth about notifying people, and she was gonna get back to me. She said she had to talk to you and Amy
Okay.
or something.
Okay, I want to make sure that we have the notice out to the parties of the motions to dismiss.
Yeah,
And
If I can try and get a hold of her. And
Okay.
If I can get answers, I can.
do you know, were the motions prepared?
I think it would be, I'm not sure what the next step is, notifying them that there is a hearing.
Well, so my understanding was Amy, between the two of you, there was going to be a motion to dismiss for the different, outlining the reasons.
Contact Amy.
Okay, so those weren't filed. So can we set here, let me turn that off. Sorry. Can we, I feel like we should probably set a different date if those aren't ready, like if they aren't filed. Like I want to make sure if we're dismissing cases that we have sufficient notice to the parties.
Yeah,
Given-
my understanding there would be a discussion about it. Property owners would be notified that they could come. Is there
Oh, you turn on your mic. Sorry. So we are not having the hearings then on October 4th?
Yeah, I believe the hearings are scheduled, and my understanding there was going to be a notification that there was a hearing and sending out the agenda to them so that they know that there was a hearing and there would be a discussion, and then the board would make a decision based
But,
on that.
well, my concern, just for the board and for the, procedurally, is to make sure that there's sufficient notice of the basis for the motion to dismiss, so that it's not, we don't end up in a situation where it's like, oh, well, I just got this morning, I don't have a, then the representatives don't, have sufficient time to prepare for the hearing. So I think we should pick an alternate date just to make sure that we're covered, because I'd like to have those filed in time to have them sent out to the property owners.
Okay.
So, do we want to, are Wednesdays then reasonable for people? Is that,
Yes.
okay. Do we want to just say October, or, sorry, I'm in November on my calendar. Do we want to say October 11th instead of the 4th?
Same time?
Same time? Does that work for
Weren't
everybody?
we doing like 6 p.m. on October 4th?
Yes, yeah, 6
So
p.m.
same time?
Yep, same time, 6 p.m. on October 11th. Does that work for everybody?
We can make it, yeah.
Yes.
And that's
For us.
that's in lieu of the 4th, not just as an
Correct.
alternate. So we
Correct. We
nothing
would-
on the 4th.
Correct.
We'll
We would
just
push
plan
that.
Okay,
Gotcha.
that's fine.
Yeah. Like I said, I want to have the motions filed, I'd like to have them filed, by the Friday before, just to make sure that, because if they get contested in the future, I want to make sure there was sufficient notice of the action, if a motion to dismiss is granted, I want to make sure it wasn't, that there's sufficient due process on our end if they go to challenge it.
Yes, postponing 1 date, 1 week makes sense to me. It gives
Okay.
us more time.
Okay, and then what is the status? Subpoenas are out to the other property owners?
We're still working on those. Those are not prepared and signed yet, so.
Okay, so we're still kind of
This next week,
pending,
yep.
pending as far as the other ones that would not be dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So then the next date to convene would be October 11th at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Then we would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.